Exactly.
We get the fleet prices, if you know where her house is, how many houses are
Oh, how many ten houses? That's the one.
yeah, and I wanted to go over there Saturday night. I mean Sunday night.
And
But
then
they
we
told me
can
they only do it in the month.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
2 o'clock on a buffet, so we didn't go. Cause we stayed in there last night.
Did you really? Well, it's been nice.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's been nice.
You find out about the water on Fern Street. Water on Fern Street.
I'll tell you something.
I'm just saying. And pay a lot.
Happy anniversary on your business.
Thank you,
That is awesome.
thank you, working
How long you been?
65 years. March the 5th. Yeah, March the 5th.
It was just a.
What's this?
No, I'm just thinking.
Oh, yeah, that been here.
I was thinking when it was sitting down there. Been here for a long time.
Well, that was just we've been in advertising. Yeah, 65 years. Let me tell you, man.
I'd like to call to order our South Hill Town Council meeting for Monday, March the 8th. Shall we pray? Our most gracious Heavenly Father, as we gather here tonight, let us think of the many blessings that we have. Dear Lord, we've had many among us who have fought this illness, and we pray for them, for their strength and their healing. We also want to remember the family of Frank Malone. Dear Lord, Mr. Malone passed away since our last meeting, and please be with his family, guide them, lead them, and give them strength. Dear Lord, as we go forward, let us be mindful of the many blessings that we have as a town, as a state, and as a country. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. Anna?
Lily Figgins Boone.
Present.
Alex Graham.
Present.
Gavin Honeycutt.
Present.
Dolores Lester is absent at roll call. Mike Moody.
Yeah.
Shep Moss.
Here.
Ben Taylor.
Here.
Joseph Taylor.
Here.
Stuart Bowen.
Here.
Kim Callis.
Here.
Sheila Cottrell. CJ Dean.
Here.
Carol Hutchinson. Brent Morris.
Here.
Okay, thank you, Hannah. Council, we have on the agenda the approval of the minutes for January the 11th, since we did not have a meeting in February.
So moved.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain, please. I was not here for that meeting.
Okay. All right, item 5, council, is the February reports to be approved as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. On item 6, I'd like to read to council. We had this prepared, and I'll read to you from Stuart Taylor. This is in regards to Mr. Lincoln Sturdivant. Dear Lincoln, this is a letter to acknowledge and to recognize Lincoln Sturdivant as being an asset to the South Hill Planning Commission in the town of South Hill since December 9, 1991. Commitment, enthusiasm, and community mindedness are the 3 characteristics that come to mind when you think about Lincoln. He was involved with many projects throughout the year with the town of South Hill. The town was always on his mind, and he could always be relied on to represent each neighborhood of the town to the fullest. Lincoln had a vast knowledge of the town as it was 60 to 80 years ago. He could tell you what stores were where, who lived there, and what buildings were torn down, and which new buildings were put up. It is valuable to the Planning Commission to understand why some of the ordinances were written as they were. He will be thoroughly missed by the community and members of the board. Thank you, Lincoln, for our 29 years of irreplaceable service to our community. Sincerely, Stuart Taylor, South Hill Planning Commission Chairman. Okay, item 7, citizens to address council. Okay, Kim?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, we have several items for you tonight. The first is a proposed small purchase policy, and as we are required to do, we have always followed the Virginia Public Procurement Act, and for a long time we just had a bound copy of that, and our folks used it as the purchasing manual. Primarily because of the police department's work to achieve accreditation, and Chief Bowen and Captain Johnson have been working really, really hard on that for quite some time. We needed something that was a bit more detailed than the Virginia Public Procurement Act. So we put together the small purchase policy that is in your council packet tonight, and it was put together with input from Sheila Cottrell, our Director of Finance and Administration, Chief Bowen, and CJ Dean, Director of Municipal Services, all of whom have some involvement or a lot of involvement in the majority of the town's purchases. So it's been reviewed by the Policy Review Committee for presentation to council for your consideration and adoption.
Question.
Yes, sir.
In reading the policy, I think I was reading, up to $100,000 requires 3 quotes, but the department head can approve that by him or herself without the town manager input or council?
I think it's written so that anything that is $100,000 or more, they get the quotes, but I have to sign off on it. Anything that's $100,000 or more, the town manager would sign off on it. So it would go to the department head and their Well, division head, department head, and then it would come, and they would sign off on it, and then it would come to the town manager.
The way that I read it, it was $25,000, $1 up to $100,000, 3 quotes, and just the department head to approve. Am I reading that incorrectly? My concern would be, why not the town manager also? I got to find it.
It does have the town manager on
Does
it.
it have town manager?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm looking at it.
I must have misread it.
yeah.
That's the one that said between 100,000 and 200,000 that says that the town manager is also have to approve it. So you're talking about 3 or 4? You're talking about 3 or 4?
Let me go back to my notes. 3 quotes. They did 25 to 100.
Okay, that does
Right.
not include the town manager.
Yes, so up to $100,000 does not include the town manager.
No, it's anything between 100 and 200 would come to the town manager.
Isn't it? Do most localities allow simply the department head to approve $100,000?
This was gleaned from looking at the procedures of a number of different local governments. And we can do whatever you want, but when we talk about this with the policy review committee, the fact that we have 3 quotes, that pretty well substantiates that we're going to get.
No, I trust
A reasonable
the policy
price.
committee. It's just that $100,000 seemed like a whole lot to be approved by one individual without an input from a town manager. That just seemed like mighty high to me. Maybe I'm looking at it incorrectly, or
Well, when we're going to spend $100,000, before we do that, it's going to go through, it will very likely be a capital expenditure. It will have been included in the town budget. It will have been vetted by the Budget and Finance Committee during the budgeting process, and they will look at it, whether it's a piece of equipment or a big project or something like that. I mean, there are a number of different levels that these things go through. It would be very odd for us to spend $100,000 without this council knowing it before we spend the money. And then beyond that, it's a matter of the department manager or the division head going out and getting the quotes. And that's,
I understand that I was looking at the wording of the policy.
okay.
Okay.
So, to piggyback on Councilman Moody's, and that was one of the questions that I had. So it's like if a department head came in here tomorrow and said, look, Mr. Callis, I need you to sign off on this for $100,000. You're not gonna sign it all between that day.
Absolutely not. I want to see the 3 quotes and, and all of that. And if the money is not already in the budget, then we have to go through the process of bringing it and appropriating it. And I think a good example of that, you'll see later under the Director of Finance Administration's report, will be a good example of that. Yes, sir. So we need a motion to adopt this.
Also move to adopt the small purchase policy effective immediately.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed?
Thank you. The second item I have for you is an economic incentive grant agreement. And as you will hear later from Brent Morris, our town offers a variety of business incentives, many more than most towns our size, and they're comparable with most cities. But in addition to these incentives, and as a follow-up to some information that was provided to you by the Mecklenburg County Administrator, the County Attorney, Russell Slayton, has drafted an economic incentive grant agreement that defines how certain tax revenues will be shared between Mecklenburg County, the Industrial Development Authority of South Hill, and the town of South Hill. And this agreement is vital to the establishment of Microsoft data center operations in South Hill. As these data centers are constructed and they become operational in the coming years, local tax revenues will grow exponentially. And they will contribute to much-needed funding for things like infrastructure and providing crucial services. And so this incentive grant agreement is between the county and the IDA and the town, and it's reflective of what we will do with certain tax revenues. And it's consistent with everything that Mr. Carter shared with you.
IDA been included in this? I mean, they understand that you or Mr. Morris or someone met with them and
They had, the IDA did have a meeting and they have approved it.
so now they're just waiting on us, and we the last piece of the puzzle?
I can't,
We the last piece of the puzzle?
it's coming before the county tonight.
Okay,
Just
We would have presented it last month, but
I got you.
And I'm asking, going forward, if there was any other additional transactions or whatever with Microsoft, would this be the foundation, or would it be a different one?
I believe that we can use this agreement going forward with other similar activities. Now, keep in mind that each year when we go through the budget process, we have to address this. Our budget is a year-to-year thing, and we have to appropriate the funds to do it every single year. And that language is included in here.
Council?
I move to approve the economic incentive grant agreement between Mecklenburg County, the IDA of the town of Southfield, and the town of Southfield.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed?
Thank you. I believe you have the annual rescue squad report in your packet, but in addition to that, Floyd Edmonds called, and the squad is requesting permission to hold its annual bucket drive fundraiser on Saturday, May the 29th from 7 a.m. until 2 p.m., and they want to do it in the usual locations on West Danville Street, West Atlantic Street, North Mecklenburg Avenue, East Atlantic Street, and at the entrance to Walmart.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I have one question, and I support the bucket drive. Will COVID guidelines, or current COVID guidelines, will they allow for that? I don't know, I'm asking.
I don't see why they wouldn't, because it's not a mass gathering. It's really going to be just
Just
drive-through.
travel through, sure.
And at Walmart, somebody's standing there. So I think it'll just people be dropping money in a bucket.
Right.
And I would hope that everybody holding the bucket will have gloves and mask on, so.
Any other questions, council? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you. And the last item that I have for you is the 2nd and 3rd Street Community Improvement Project. Our staff has been working with the Planning District Commission and B&B, I can't tell you how long, to try and figure out a way to address some needs in that neighborhood. And we finally gotten to a place where DHCD, the Department of Housing and Community Development, had made some funds available. And the way the project, or the way the grant application is written now, it would include water, sewer, storm drainage, and street improvements. Unfortunately, there is no housing component to this project because it's an unusual situation where you have a landlord that owns 15 houses over there. And we thought that that landlord was going to agree to participate. Some of his properties are on the dilapidated properties list, and he has worked hard to improve some of them. He spent over $70,000 to date improving some of them. We had hoped that he would participate in this, but on the advice of his financial advisors, he decided he would not participate. That makes it very, very difficult. That makes it very, very difficult for this grant application to be competitive. And so we've revisited it a number of times, and the budget in front of you on the dais tonight is a little different from the one that was in the council packet, because we were just trying to figure out what can we do to make this thing more competitive, and the only thing we can do is for the town's match to be greater than it was before without this housing component. So the budget you have on the dais is the total project would be $1,570,000 and change, and we can only request up to $1 million if there is no housing. If housing were involved, we could request $1.5 million, but it really hurts us. It will be very difficult to get this grant but we wanted to make it as competitive as we could. This man is continuing to work on these houses, but when you are a landlord and you have a house or a property that's rehabbed, you are committed to doing certain things for 10 years. And I think that factored into some of the decision-making for him. So without the $1.5 million, we had to drop it down to applying for $1 million, and we had to increase our match to make this as competitive as possible. So we can still do everything that we wanted to do except the housing, and this gentleman will continue to work on the homes, but he's not going to get any grant money to help him along the way. But he will also have more flexibility with rents in the future.
Question. Why would he not want to take advantage of this grant with these monies and all included for infrastructure as far as his funds are concerned? I mean, this would be beneficial to him.
We tried very hard to point that out because you could get up to $35,000 a house. And initially, this individual was fully invested in it. He was ready to go forward with it. And when it came down to getting everything finalized, he met with the Planning Commission and said, my financial advisors told me this is not a good deal for me. And so we followed up, town staff followed up with him. And, you know, we cannot get into tax advice, and we can't talk about depreciation and all of those things. But
So what you're suggesting is we move forward with the street repairs and maintenance and so forth?
well, we can get $1 million, in a nutshell, we can do a $1.6 million project. We get $1 million to help us with that, and then we have to pay the rest. So our recommendation is that if we can do $1.5 million of work and only cost us a little over $500,000, it's still a good deal for the town because it's in an area where this work drastically needs to be done. We'll be replacing, I mean, if you got water lines in there that are 1 inch, you got sewer lines that are 70 years old.
But if you've got properties that are falling down and dilapidated, I mean, if somebody wasn't willing to upkeep their property, why would the town want to make an investment?
Well, we are staying on top of him. When I went over there the other day to talk to him, somebody was repairing putting a new roof on one of those houses. So,
My wife and family attended a funeral here recently, and they talked about how dilapidated that part of our town was.
Awful.
It's awful. It's terrible. And as someone who won't keep his property up, it's just a reflection. I mean, that's the impression that the people, the rest of the town look great, and they said, but your cemetery is terrible.
we used every bit of
Cemetery
leverage.
area.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
we
not
used
the cemetery.
we used every bit of leverage that we could, and you know, this
We've got trucks sitting over there with no wheels on them. We've got, everybody's been by there. It's terrible. It's terrible.
it is. We know.
If you would, convince me that the town should spend over $500,000 to improve an area where the person who owns 15 houses there doesn't want to apparently see it improved because of the lack of upkeep of the buildings that he or she owns. Why should we put $500,000 into it? Tell me.
Why not? Because the area has a water and sewage line problem.
It's
Why not? That's
Kim, if you
what
would answer the question.
to Councilwoman Fagan's Boone point, the water and sewer lines over there are undersized, they are dilapidated, and we are over there now doing work. This is an opportunity to go in there and fix that. The other part of this is that none of the streets over there have curb and gutter, and so you have storm drainage issues. To Councilman Taylor, Ben Taylor's point, the way people park, if we put in curb and gutter, they will stop parking on the street. Some of those ruts that you see along the edge of the road will not take place anymore. We can put in curb cuts where people can pull into their driveway. We cannot do anything about the houses themselves except keep the pressure on through this dilapidated property effort that we're doing. Now, Now,
please.
now, if we do this and we have to go to court on that, it's to our favor to be able to say, Judge, we had an opportunity to help this gentleman do some work, and he refused. So then the court has a little more latitude in forcing him to do some things. But we need to do work over there right now. We need to do infrastructure work. And I get it, we need to repair some water and sewer.
Mr. Mayor, I would also remark, we can't lose sight despite the intransigence of the owner. And I understand Mr. Honeycutt's and Mr. Moody's points. Despite the intransigence, though, the infrastructure needs to be fixed.
Yes,
And those residents pay taxes.
yes.
They deserve as well paved a road as is on Pleasant Street, Chapco Road. And I don't want them, as they have been for decades, and I do mean decades, because
Absolutely.
Mr. Taylor's and his father and my grandfather's buried over there, and I don't recall the streets being designed for it better from the day that he was buried in the 80s. It's just rough, and I know part of that's the infrastructure because we got such big water problems under the pavement. So I don't want us to lose sight, though, that our residents over there matter.
And I'm all for fixing the water line, the infrastructure, that is needed.
Yes.
My concern would be that if we spend the money to go ahead and fix the infrastructure, and the owner of these particular properties, who doesn't want to participate, continues to let the buildings go down to the point that no one can live there. I'm trying to balance it out in my head.
How
This-
many houses are there other than the 15 that he owns?
Maybe 22, 25 maybe?
Um,
And actually, how many of
I
them?
think there's 21 houses over there total, something like that.
And how many of the 15 actually have people living in them? I can count 7.
I think all but one or two. I think all but one or two are occupied, and those that aren't occupied, he is working on.
Yes.
I agree with Dr. Councilman, I agree with it. The infrastructure needs to be done. I just don't wanna keep putting money into a bad situation if the owner of the majority of the houses is gonna let them fall down. Not saying that he or she will.
But the
And that's-
pressure is already
But
on.
at the same time, in the future, then we're gonna have a backup problem with our sewer lines over there, cause it's over in my area and even closer to Deloitte.
Absolutely.
So we need to fix the sewer lines, whatever. We can't have the man made the decision not to take our hand to help them out, but the water line need to be fixed, cause it's draining down back to us.
And
it's
besides
in our
this,
area.
excuse me, let us not forget the point that this gentleman, even though he decided not to work with us on this project, those are still his homes. He is being cooperative in so much that he is fixing his properties. It's gonna be, of course, a much longer time frame. But pressure will be brought to bear on him to continue to do the work that he's doing. As long as his properties are on the dilapidated properties list, he is honor bound, you see what I'm saying, to fix
Well,
those properties. And if we continue to pressure on him, he's gonna continue to do it. So eventually, it will all work out. It's gonna take a much longer time.
I think to hopefully try to simplify this a little bit, absent housing, in round numbers, there's $1.5 million worth of work over there that really needs to be done. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And this is an opportunity for us to get $1 million of that $1.5 million through grants. And and this is probably going to be 2 years out before this even takes place. The other part of this equation is a lot of those houses are on the dilapidated property list now. And we will continue to have them on that list and go to him and say, you have got to fix these houses. And if he doesn't, then we will go to court. And then we have the ammunition of, we had an opportunity to help you, you need to move faster. So,
And again, I agree with everybody up here. But for 23 years that I've owned Gavin's House and Flowers and Gifts, I've had a distinct opportunity to serve families that go to Oakwood. everybody's seen the same dilapidated properties over there for the last 23 years. They have not changed visibly at all. So, you know, again, here we are looking at another 2 years, you say, and we have, I mean, it hasn't been curb or gutter over there for 50 years that I've been living here. And it's just, I understand it, but I don't understand it.
Well, we don't understand why he won't participate in the housing either, but that's a personal decision, and we can't make him.
If I may, I just sitting and listening, and I had the opportunity to ride through that, really the whole town, right after the ice storm, because I just wanted to get out and see the damage. And I concur with everybody that part of town is in dire need of attention. I also agree with Councilman Joseph Taylor that those people living over there, they are citizens as well, and they deserve the same as everybody else. We really have two different issues. We have citizens that need infrastructure repair, but we also have a landlord there that needs to fix his properties. It's really two separate issues. But the thing that concerns me, I'm not seeing properties come off of the dilapidated list. I read these reports every month. I'm not gonna say that one house hadn't come off, but they're the same properties every month. And we need to get these properties and use every tool and asset we have to get this dilapidated property list fixed. It's not only 2nd and 3rd Street, it's Main Street, it's over in Pettstown. We got dilapidated properties and gutters falling off and shutters broken and painting that needs to be done all over town. So this dilapidated properties list needs to be addressed, and we need to get these properties fixed. Because the 6, 7, 8 months that I've been here, and the 3 years I've been coming to council meetings, I'm not seeing any addresses come off of this list.
If I could speak a little bit on it.
And I know Mr. Taylor's very passionate about it.
Well,
Councilman Taylor, excuse me.
Excuse me, I asked a question just like you, because I didn't see him come off, but I understand that the person that we have that's in charge of that works 3 days a week, and he can only handle like 30 or 40 at a time. And once you get beyond that, we're looking at more than a 3-day week for him, because it's a pretty full 3 days a week that he's working. So I think he's kind of maxed out. He told me he tries to keep a list. I think he said between 30 and 35 must develop.
35, yeah.
30 to 35. And he said, if I get over that, he said, I can't go back and look after all of them. So I think he's kind of handicapped there. What the courts do, I don't know. I know that they've been very lenient by giving people an opportunity. I'm not throwing darts at the court, but I agree. We've had some that have been on there for a long time.
Years.
And it's,
We have.
What an eyesore. It's just embarrassing for people to come out of town and come to me and say, hey, that area of town where your cemetery is really needs a lot of work. And it does. I mean, you're right. These people are citizens. They pay taxes. They're entitled to it, just like where I live, where you live. But
Totally
it just
agree.
killed me that our landlord, and he's not the only one.
No,
He's not the only. We've got trucks and cars sitting in this town on blocks, and they've been there for years. And it's just a shame that we've got so much going for us that we've got this dilapidated property. And
Can we maybe go back to this?
2nd and 3rd Street, and we could get to the library over later.
Brent, you had a comment?
I was just gonna make a comment, you're all exactly right, and this same person is steady trying to acquire more houses in the state.
well, again, it's time that this council, and this is one of the reasons why I stepped up to run, that maybe I could, I mean, I'm one voice out of how many we have here, but it's time that this town get aggressive and clean this town up once and for all. It's time, it's past time.
Co-counsel, in regards to 2nd and 3rd Street project,
I move to approve the resolution to apply for the DHCD funding for the Second and Third Streets Community Improvement Project.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, Anna?
Dagens Boone,
Yes.
Gavin, I'm sorry,
No, that's okay. Yeah.
Graham,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Honeycutt,
Yes.
Luster,
Yes.
Moody,
Yes.
Moss,
Yes.
Ben Taylor,
Yes.
Joseph Taylor.
Yes.
Not on the agenda, but before I step away, I want to say thank you in a big way. Our town staff has been through a heck of a lot recently with the coronavirus and a lot of people being out, and those who weren't out picking up the slack, and people who were able to work from home have done so. Some of them have really felt bad at home, and they have continued to do things. Those that were able to come in have picked up so that we could answer some phones and get the mail and put money in the bank. And the response for our team during the ice storm, whether it was police, fire, and especially public works, was really overwhelming. And I can't tell you how many hours of overtime the guys put in. You know, you don't think about it, but they had to be here 24/7 to make sure sewer pumps keep running through the night, and filling up generators with gas and doing all kinds of things. So I really want to thank our town team for everything that they have been doing to deal with these really big issues over the past several weeks and months. So thanks to all of them.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of council.
Good evening.
The financial report for the month ended February 28th, 2021 is as follows. General fund, $9,778,517.12. Water and sewer fund, $1,230,332.17. Cemetery fund, $10,003.01. Second and Third Street Project Fund, a negative $354.13, which we already will be receiving reimbursement for. The total checking account balance was $11,018,498.17. Investment accounts totaled $15,415,653.11. Police Department forfeiture accounts total $27,643.62. Total taxes due were $462,342.13.
Council,
Motion to approve.
Second.
any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed?
Question, bond rates getting ready to change or whatever with the economy, and how do we see our investments going into the bond fund? I know I'm putting you on the spot, I apologize.
Interest rates are down, of course,
Yes.
like they are everywhere, but I mean, I think they're still doing fairly well. Just lost some market value, but overall, I mean, since, was it March of last year? I mean, we have increased our investment accounts by $59,000. So considering about the time we did that investment as to when COVID hit, and so I mean, I think everything is done the investment accounts have done very well considering. And I think they'll continue to do that. Hopefully things will pick back up soon. Okay, next item on the agenda is an appropriation of funds. The town has been awarded a community development block grant, or CDBG planning grant, by the Department of Housing and Community Development for planning assistance for the town of South Hills Second and Third Street Community Improvement Project, which is the one that the town manager was just talking about. DHCD will make up to a total of $40,000 available to the town for researching and developing strategies for the project. So I ask that you appropriate the grant funds for this purpose, and this is where we'll get our reimbursement for that $354 and change.
So moved.
So,
Do I have a motion?
second.
So moved.
Second.
Sorry.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay. The next item is another appropriation of funds. The Budget and Finance Committee met on January 21st to discuss options for the rotor replacement project at the wastewater treatment plant. Generally, we have three options. The first is to spend approximately $910,000 with Veolia under sole source procurement that does not include rotor tube replacement in the old ditches. Second option is to spend an additional $141,000, approximately a total of $1,049,000, with Veolia under sole source procurement to include rotor tube replacement in the old ditches. And the third option is to request bids for the entire system replacement, the cost of which is unknown, but estimated by our engineer to exceed $1.5 million plus engineering fees. After discussions with Randy Jones of B&B Consultants and Wayne Hudson, it was the consensus of the committee to recommend moving forward with replacing the Phase 2 maxi rotors in the amount of $419,632.61 and replacing the Phase 1 MIDI rotors, including replacement of the rotor tubes, in the amount of $629,041.63. The total cost of the rotor replacement project will be approximately $1,048,674.24. We currently have $907,544 budgeted for this project. Appropriating additional funds in the amount of $166,000 will cover the additional cost of approximately $141,000 and provide approximately $25,000 for any unseen cost that may arise as the project gets underway. The funds for this project are part of the bond financing included in the current budget. Due to the timing of the financing, there will be no payment due on the bond in the current fiscal year.
I make a motion.
I have a question. I see this is being done under sole source procurement. Can someone explain why that took place on this particular project? Not that it doesn't need to be done, I'm not questioning that, but we just passed this small purchase policy and we're getting bids, and I realize this amount is not coming from a small policy, I understand that.
That's true.
But I was just curious about the sole procurement.
And Kim, you might want to speak to this, but I mean, it's basically because everything is so specialized. There are two different companies that B&B looked at and got estimates from, but if a new company came in, they would have to redo everything completely, and that was option 3.
Okay.
Their parts don't interchange.
So have we been working with this particular company all along? I guess is my question.
This is what we have out there at the wastewater plant now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
To give you a little more information, we had a rotor fail, and we replaced it. And when that rotor failed, we asked that everything be inspected. And when they were inspected, we found things that needed to be done.
I'm not questioning
So
whether
that's
it
why.
need to be done or not. I was just curious about the sole procurement, the sole source procurement.
One of the things that we also looked at was if you had a Ford and you went to one of the parts store and you wanted to put a knockoff part, whether it's Napa or whoever, those parts will not, they're so specialized they cannot be interchanged.
Gotcha.
But
Or
we
gifts.
asked all those questions
That
here.
was the big part of the discussion, why this company, that was it, they don't interchange at all.
No.
Just won't do it.
So it would be more costly if we had a different company
Thank you
come
for the
in.
explanation.
Sure.
Okay, council, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Let me just, real quick, I just want to thank Kim and CJ and Wayne and the rest of the budget, and Sheila was out there. You know, again, just coming on and learning the inner workings, I mean, you just don't know what exactly exists until you see it firsthand. But Mr. Moss, that was one of the questions that I had about sole source, and that was a big topic of discussion. And I think this company will do as well.
Good thing.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any vote? Okay.
Honorable Mayor, members of council, Last month, we put in your packet the updated business incentives. A few of these incentives have been updated, but then also we've added some new ones to the lineup in lieu of the focus group we had at the end of 2020, which some of you all were able to participate in. But to just kind of run through and give an update on it, the real estate, business, and personal property tax incentive, the town-wide qualifications that were reflected were reduced. The private investment from 2 to 6 million now to 1 to 2 million, and 6 million plus are now 2 million plus, and that's on page 7. The historical structure incentive town-wide qualification went from a $5 million investment in creating 5 new jobs to a $250,000 investment to create 2 full-time jobs. The water and sewer connection fee, building permit, real estate, business and personal property taxes, incentive downtown qualification was reduced from $25,000 to $10,000 in private investment. The following grants were added to the business incentive package. We are trying to implement a build and upfit grant, a business incubation grant, and a business utility and service grant, which are on pages 13 through 18. And the greater downtown area map was also updated to extend the downtown from the intersection of West Danville Street to Locust Street, North Mecklenburg Avenue to Beaver Creek Drive, from the intersection of Thomas Street and West Atlantic to Lombardi Street and East Atlantic Street. And we also updated the facade improvement grant to remove residential from that facade program in lieu of expanding it town-wide. There were some questions that came up most recently, so we felt it would be best to remove residential. Are there any questions about the incentive package that I can answer for you all tonight?
When you were putting this together, did anything with new housing, you know, we do have a housing crisis here, believe it or not. Was anything looked at, housing's typically not considered maybe like a retail business or manufacturing business, but was anything looked at for maybe a housing developer with incentives?
Absolutely not. Housing and developers, that's a whole different animal than business. So there has been some discussion. Have we took a deeper dive into what most localities do? I've not ran across anything yet that has stuck out to me. These incentives were not recreated out of anything abnormal. We looked at Raleigh, Richmond, Virginia Beach, Norfolk, bigger municipalities, and some of the things that they do in their EDAs and IDAs and CDAs do, which is kind of where we took this information and tailored it down to fit us. What you're talking about, yes, I do think there's opportunity there, but that's going to be a whole different animal, whole different beast than just these business incentives. But I do think it would be some value. And we are working, there should be some announcements coming out here in the next 6 months that we're going to tackle some of that housing
That's
issues.
good to know.
Ma'am?
I said, that's good to know, because
Absolutely.
we need some housing.
Yes, ma'am, we do. We're working hard on it.
The parameters of the incentives, how far did they go? You said that you all cut it off, so how far did they expand now? North, south, east, and west?
Well, some of the incentive packages, and you'll see is defined in each one of them. The first set are town-wide, which includes the facade improvement, which means it's within the corporate boundaries of the town. The downtown zone is highlighted on the map, and it may not be as clear, but that pink line, if you follow that.
I couldn't see the line that well. Okay, all right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Question, I'm assuming it's already on the town website, this?
No, not until you all approve it.
Okay, all right.
And these are effective July 1.
That's right. We're asking to be effective at July 1, so Budget and Finance has time to appropriately commit money to it.
All right. With that, and again, in the current environment and culture of positive and people looking at whatever, if it's approved and if it's put in place, I would sort of, have some gambit on the website, just like you got. It's something new, something, I just wouldn't put it on it, maybe I'm not being clear. I wouldn't just put it just on the website. I mean, I would have newly introduced or something that would draw attention to it when you get to that point, where it's not just lost. Just a thought.
Give it some splash.
Yeah. What's the big deal?
Yeah, I think it is.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
It is a big deal, and I will say I do appreciate the consideration on this. And to reflect Kim's comments earlier, we do. If you look around us, we have one of the most aggressive incentive packages of any locality around us. With
Even
this,
before.
with
This
this,
steps the game up big time.
And I think we should promote that. I mean, you know, and draw attention to it.
I'll make a motion to approve these business incentives.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Good job.
Thank you. In addition to that, it was not in my report. As you all know, on February 16th, we celebrated the 120-year anniversary of the town of South Hill. During that time, we had a couple ice storms and a few situations that were going on. So we prolonged the celebration. Today, Mrs. Cratch released a flyer out on our Facebook page announcing that we'll be doing a townwide scavenger hunt on Friday. We've already had the 120 symbol made, and it's going to be hidden in town for residents to ride around and take photos out of their vehicles, COVID safe. And they will be able to post it, and the first one that does will win a prize pack at $1,000. So congratulations on 120 years of success.
Yes.
Okay, council. The next is the March reports to be approved as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Any committee reports? Any old business to discuss? Any new business to discuss?
Yes, sir.
Mhm.
I have a question because I had a person reach out to me last week by email that had requested the use of the Exchange building for a cornhole tournament with possibility of a local sheriff. And I called the town manager and we had a very positive discussion. But my question is, what is the policy, and is it a written policy on the guidelines to use that facility?
And on the reservation request form for the Exchange, it's all laid out there. And in the very first part of it, it says, the Exchange is not available for private events.
Well, I
It is on
understand
that
that, but, you know, over the course of at least the last 12 months, I know other organizations have come before council and requested the use of the building. And once I dug in a little deeper into this particular situation, he wasn't afforded that opportunity. He wasn't told to, I guess, send you an email at this point requesting the use of the building. So I'm just curious, with his situation aside, does the request come before council since the other parties had to come to council? Is it solely on the town manager's approval? What is the policy for that? Not necessarily the uses of the building, but the policy of reserving the building.
Well, I believe, if my memory serves correctly, this came up once before. And we said that it was not to be used for private events, and this council wanted those questions to be directed to the town manager, and it was in the minutes. But it was made very clear from day one that this is a public works facility, and that if an organization wants to do something there that will benefit the community at large, and it is not something that is a for-profit situation, that we can, if people aren't going to be sticking money in their pocket, it benefits the community at large, that we work with them if a community organization sponsors it. And since that time, the organizations that have used it are the CMH Foundation for their Winterfest, which is a big fundraiser. We worked with the Chamber of Commerce to have something up there for Christmas. And the Mecklenburg Cancer Society came to us to do a fundraiser, and all of their proceeds go to help people who are suffering from cancer.
Charitable organization.
So those are the types of things that, people have asked about having wedding receptions there, and we have said no. But that was what this council decided a few years ago, because we knew that was a dilapidated property. We knew we needed something as a public works facility, but we were going to be taking down a very historic building, and we could have put up a metal building, but we wanted something with a brick facade that sort of honors the history of our tobacco heritage as much as we could. That's why it has that nice facade.
Well, but and not to interrupt, but my question is, why do some parties come before council? Why do some parties not? That's the only thing I'm asking.
Because some of them want to get the word out that they are doing this, and they want to come to council, and newspapers come, and they just want it publicized that way.
Mr. Moss, what kind of event was this?
It was a cornhole tournament for this particular group is doing them weekly now. They would like to have some in South Hill. They are bringing upwards of 150 contestants. So to me, it's a great way to promote our motels and restaurants. These people are coming from all over the East Coast. And this particular group also has access to having their events televised. Not all of them, but some of the regional events are televised. And, I'm looking on, I guess my question is, if town council doesn't have to approve it, why are we approving the facilities reservation list?
You're not.
We're using, us.
You're not.
You're not. We just present it for information.
Yeah, information.
We're not approving that?
No.
Okay.
That was set up 5 or 6 years ago because it became such a problem, and because people were coming here constantly asking.
It was just information so that people know what's going on.
The other thing too, and I hear you, it's kind of like our parks. We want as many tournaments as we can have here and bring people in. But it is a public works facility. And the other thing, maybe you can answer that. I've talked to a couple guys. It takes them a half a day to clean up to have an event. And you got grease and oil and transmission fluid, and they clean it up, and then 4 or 5 hours later we have an event, and it's kind of a hardship on the town too. Hopefully one day, Parkview High School will become available, and we could get our hands on that. But that's a whole different can of worms, and that's years off. But that would be a great venue for something like that.
I have to talk to the county about that, what they'll acquire those back.
Well, we'd certainly like to get it. I mean, it would be a.
So I guess my next question would be, and I wasn't in on that, but where did the monies come from to build the new exchange? Was that taxpayers' dollars? Was that money used from the citizens?
Mm-hmm. And that's why it's a public works facility to benefit the facility. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I was just curious what the procedure was for that. Thank you.
Any other new business? Okay. I would entertain a motion to convene in closed session to discuss the following as permitted by Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A7. Legal matters involving a court order and the grievance policy, and A/1, a personnel matter involving an appointed position.
Yeah, so.
Okay, all those in favor?
Try Cheesy Crispy Ritz Cheese Crispers.
To support local restaurants, we've been to every city, including Little Rock.
And even Worcester. And tonight, I'll be eating the chicken quesadilla from Tony's Tex-Mex in Katy. Do you think they bought it?
Oh, yeah.
We made USAA insurance for renters who make the most of their space and money. That's why we make it easy to cover the stuff you love for as little as 33 cents a day. USAA, what you're made of, we're made for.
Finish your mid-fade without pausing. Try YouTube Premium on us and style uninterrupted.
To support local restaurants, we've been to every city, including Little Rock.
And even Worcester. And tonight, I'll be eating the chicken quesadilla from Tony's Tex-Mex in Katy. Do you think they bought it?
Oh, yeah.
tonight's dinner, it's gonna be great. This last-second bake sale, it's gonna be great. And these meatballs for your future in-laws, it's gonna be... Oh boy. It's okay. You got this. And now everyone is chowing and tacoing and talking with their mouths full. Even Nona... Yes, Nona likes it! With McCormick by your side for over 130 years, it's gonna be great.
Play Animal Crossing videos with your screen off. Try YouTube Premium on us and explore uninterrupted.
Pop in the crispy, airy flavor of Southwest Ranch Poppables and pop a smile.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again. Because a vision softly creeping left its seeds while I was sleeping. And the vision that was planted in my brain still remains within the sound of silence.
In restless dreams I walked alone, narrow streets of cobblestone, neath the halo of a street lamp, I turned my collar to the cold and damp. When my eyes were stabbed by the flash of a neon light that split the night and touched the sound of silence.
And in the naked light I saw 10,000 people, maybe more. People talking without speaking, people hearing without listening, people writing songs that voices never share. And no one dare disturb the sound of silence, of silence, of silence, of silence.
So said I, you do not know. Silence like a cancer grows. Hear my words that I might teach you. Take my arms that I might reach you. But my words like silent raindrops fell and echoed in the wells of silence.
In the people mountain red, to the neon god that it made.
And the signs are shining for me, and the words that he was for me. And the signs said the words of the prophets are written on the subway walls and tenement halls, and whispered in the sound of silence.
I'm having to help you, but I just want to stand behind.
Thank you. That's a dangerous place as well. Thank you.
You're all met.
Okay, council. While in closed session, there was no action taken. We only discussed legal and personnel matters. I would entertain a motion to certify these.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, Anna, roll call.
Fagan Spoon?
No. Oh, yeah.
Graham?
Yes.
Honeycutt?
Yes.
Luster?
Yes.
Moody.
Yes.
Moss.
Yes.
Ben Taylor.
Yes.
And Joseph Taylor.
Okay, so we're now in open session. I think there was a question about the
One
council.
other thing I'd like to mention, as to Whittles Mill, everything has been filed with the FERC, and Aqua Law has advised us that we need to do nothing for now, that these things could take months, and likely the next step is the clerk will come back with some questions, and we will address them, and we have suggested to our law firm that we invite the commissioners, the FERC commissioners, to come to South Hill and Mecklenburg County and let us share Whittles Mill with them, to give them a first-hand look at it. But we have nothing more to do until we hear from our law firm.
And just to revert back to my question about the exchange, because I want to make sure I tell this individual right. If he teams up with one of those approved or appropriate organizations, then we can revisit the possibility of him having a tournament there, if it's done with one of those local groups.
It needs to be done.
Because I haven't talked to him yet.
And it needs to be something that benefits the entire community and that individuals don't personally gain from it. Otherwise, we open up Pandora's box.
I understand, I totally understand.
And some other business, this is something that I forgot to bring up, and I apologize, and I promised this person I was gonna do it. Real quick, and I know it's been a sore subject, but the wall, infamous wall at the American Legion.
Can I give you an update?
Yes, please.
All right. CJ Dean and I met with the electrician on Friday to relocate the electrical panel to the amphitheater. And we were advised by Robert Owens of the American Legion that they are going to put back, they're going to take down another section of the brick wall, and they believe they have a new anchoring system, and they're going to go back with the brick wall.
Right, and my question is, and it's my understanding from several members of the American Legion that those monies are gonna be more or less put on them to redo, because the VFW, from my understanding, doesn't have the funds to move forward to do that. So I'm just asking, is the town gonna step up to the plate? Because again, that was IDA owned, IDA just, they supposedly didn't have any money, they just sold a bunch of land, so they got some money. I just, as a town, what are we gonna do to help with the financing of redoing that wall?
Well, I think they can, if they want help, the appropriate thing for them to do would be to make a request that the town help them with it, and then we can bring it to the council for consideration.
Okay.
Keep in mind that we do not have final numbers yet.
Because it's my understanding they're waiting on the deed to be finalized.
That was signed and recorded the 16th of February.
Should have been done.
I know the American Legion hadn't gotten a copy. Have they gotten a copy of it?
Oh, no, the town got a copy.
Okay.
To move the electrical panel, we don't have a final number yet, but we were looking at $30,000 or so just for us to move the electricity. So the wall is over and above that. So the appropriate thing for them to do would be to just send me a letter making the request, and then we can bring it to council to address.
I just, again, not taking away from one organization or the other, but I know personally what the American Legion has done back in donations into this community.
To a lot of people.
And, they're suffering with membership and members, they haven't been having bingo, for quite some time now, that cash flow, they've lost that. And, I think if it's something we as a town could help do to offset some of those costs, I would love for the council to be able to visit that.
Have them send us a letter and we'll be glad to present it. Thank you.
And Kim, along those lines, but from a standpoint of the budget and whatever, would it be imperative that they make that request as soon as possible so that it would be part of the budget process?
It would be nice to include it in next year's budget, but if all goes well, the work may get started before July 1.
But Councilman Honeycutt, I think that'd be something you could convey as well.
Yes.
I spoke with Councilman Moss the other day, and he called. His timing was incredible. We're going to try the Chamber's first music event's the third Thursday in May 21st, whatever it is. We hope to have all the electrical work done by then. We're a little bit at the mercy, we are at the mercy of Dominion because they have to order certain materials, panel boxes, we've got certain things we have to do to meet their specs that may be hard to get, but we think we can make that happen. If the wall was not done by then, we'll just have to barricade it off so that people can't go near it. We can still have the event, but people can't go near the wall. But
as far as the request to try to get in during this budget process would be best. Okay. Anything else in open session? Hearing none, meeting adjourned.